Okay. There we go.
So who are you?
Hey, yeah. Hi. Long time listener. First time streamer.
Is this the first one this year?
No. We did one in January. And the interesting thing, because we did it right after CES.
Oh, of course we did. Yes.
Yeah. And what's interesting about this podcasting gig is that, this is the pre-show. First off, hi, everybody. Yeah. Welcome back. We're here. We're sitting. We're chatting human factors. Glad you're here, too. If you want to chat with us, there's a live caller link. I think that works. Hold on. Let me make sure that works. Calling into somebody else's show. But hey, yes, no, we're here. If you're unfamiliar with our faces, yes, it's been a minute. I'm Nick Rome. There's Barry Kirby.
Hi.
We've been around, but maybe not so much recently. And we've had some stuff going on in our personal lives. We could talk a little bit about that, but we're here today to talk about human factors, and some cool stuff, and some not so cool stuff. Some like sad news with all the planes falling out of the sky. But that's human factors, and no, really,
it's not because of human factors. It's because of the women, and it's because of the other people who are not white. That's the reason they fell out the sky. I've never been so angry until yesterday, and then of course the Ukraine war was Zelensky's fault. So, you guys have really got it going on that side of
you know what? We are having a time over here.
You really are.
All right, there you go. That's the link. That should work. If you give that a scan, you can come in. You'll be in a little backstage thinger, and you can tell us if you want to be on camera. You can let us know what you want to chat about. We'll find a way to weave you into the conversation. You can sit here and chat with us. But yeah, let's talk about maybe why we haven't been on, and what's been going on, because I think we're both busy folks, and we, as much as we want to podcast, as much fun as we have doing this, just sometimes reality doesn't match up. It's like these things where like maybe we don't have control over the schedule of what happens on a Thursday, and then one thing leads to another, and then one week it's you, and then the next week I'm sick, and then the next week you're sick, and then the next week there's a thing that I really got to get to, and then
it definitely is. So from my perspective, my schedule has been sort of slight curveball in that one of the jobs I'm working on at the moment, one of my clients, who I'm really super stoked to be involved with, and I'm working back in the air domain, which I haven't worked in directly for quite a long time, and it's doing some really, really super interesting work. However, it means I have to travel to the other end of the country every other week. And so normally, depending, we try and do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, being up there, because we want to be present with the team that I'm working with up there. And as we all know, as much as the remote stuff is good, being face to face and getting stuff done, you need to do it to make the team work and to just take advantage of them things. So that's been the one bit, and so that means basically every Thursday I'm driving back on a nice 6-hour trip. So either I get back here after 10 o'clock in UK time, or in the run up to it, and I'm just like, I can barely open my eyes. I've just been driving 6 hours. So that's I thought that would be okay, because I thought that would fall into the fortnightly pace that we had going on. But then I realized that also on their mother weeks, you get ill, you have other things going on. You're like going, oh, and my other clients want me to go and visit them too, because we're all nice and sociable, but they're realizing that we're not in COVID anymore. We want to see your face. That's my excuse.
What's yours, Nick? So here, let's talk about it. So let's see. What's all been going on? I think I don't know if this is public information yet. In my life, we're planning sort of a large move. a physical moving of every object in our living space from one location to another in the form of buying property and owning a home. So, so we are in the middle of that process with the intended transition date to be sometime in the summer. So you can imagine we're kind of gearing up for that. We're getting all that stuff in line. We're looking at homes in another state, mind you. And so there's like a lot of that stuff going on behind the scenes on my end. Additionally, work has been slammed in a good way. Like there's been a lot of really rewarding, valuable work that I've been a part of lately. And there's also other odds and ends that I'm kind of doing on the side extracurricularly that maybe I had done in the past, but now am doing more of. So what I mean is like, chatting with, I think next week I have a sit down with some university to go over. It's kind of cool. It's like a choose your own adventure. It's at San Jose State, so we're kind of doing a choose your own adventure. I can talk about 5 or 6 different topics, and then they get to choose which topic they'd like to hear about, and we go into depth on those. And then also, putting together some things in terms of materials for publications. And then lots of really interesting things at work that I can't talk about. But the other thing is that stacked on top of all that, I've received a new medical diagnosis, which I'm not ready to talk about publicly yet. But it's the way I've been putting it is life changing, but not yet life threatening. That's the semi ominous way that I've been talking about this, and just for some awareness on that front, it's like now there are many other things about me and my body that I need to track and be aware of at many times. And so on top of everything, the workload has been one thing, but then this has been an entirely new thing, changing diet and habits and everything to it's life affirming now. So there's all that. And because of all that, now we're kind of at a monthly schedule, which, there's an interesting correlation. I was telling you about this, Barry, a little bit before the show. I don't remember where I saw this correlation. I wish I could give the person credit, but there was a post I saw. It might have been on LinkedIn or something, where folks were talking about there has been sort of a surge in this need to create an online presence about you. And, back in 2016 is when I started up this podcast. We've been doing this almost 10 years. Crazy. And 307 episodes later. And back at that time in my life, there was maybe some questionable appreciation for the work that I did, or recognition for skill sets. And basically this post on LinkedIn was kind of saying that if you're not getting the recognition and appreciation that you seek at work, you go elsewhere for that. And so what do? You create an online persona. Why? Because you can pick that up and take that with you anywhere. And you have an online record of the things that you've done. And lo and behold, that's kind of what I did with the podcast. And so I've noticed that since at work, it's actually a really nice thing to be recognized and valued at work. Strange concept, I know, for some folks, but I'm starting to get that now. And cool. I'm kind of at a phase in my life where that is more regular, where that appreciation and recognition and just, it's hard to explain the difference in work environment when you're getting that versus not. And I just generally feel supported, and I love that. And so I think there's kind of less pressure from the public persona perspective to publish, to produce. And the things that we do put out there, we want them to be content. We want it to be content that's valuable to the community, which is why, again, we're talking about this tonight, the plain stuff, because this is topical. It's relevant to our field. It's something that I know a lot of folks have a lot of thoughts and opinions and questions on. But Barry, before we get into, we're still in the pre-show, but like, I know you had said to me that you had some thoughts on this whole correlation piece.
Yeah, because it really made me think about, why did I get into podcasting in the first place and doing all of this? And certainly this year, I've been having some real thoughts around, does 1202 continue? Does it not? Does it, where does it go? And really, I think I've had a slightly different driver, because I guess with what I do, I'm not necessarily backward in coming forward and putting myself out there, given some of the stuff that I've done in the past. But I've always been aware that after the first year, because I've been doing this, about 5 years now, I think. I'm nowhere near as seasoned as you are at all of this. But after the first sort of couple of years, and then people were starting to say, "Oh, I can't wait for the next one to come out," blah 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 blah. And I started to feel some real pressure about doing it. Why am I doing it? Actually, I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it because people are expecting that content to come out. And so I had to have sort of words with myself around that. And I think that was around the sort of time that me and you hooked up, and we sort of had this type of approach, which is very different from what I do on 1202. So and that thoroughly influenced what I do on 1202. And then I think this year or certainly last year, there was a load of stuff that went on, so medically, personally, all that sort of stuff, where I had to turn around and say, something's got to give, or at least give myself a break from what I was doing, so not beat myself up quite so much. So actually, I do have stuff that I want to do this year, people I want to talk to, people I want to interview. But something else that was being said, and the reason that your comment sparks up something with me is, a couple of people, when I was doing some reviews, sort of said, we want to hear more of your thoughts and what you do on 1202. If I interview people, I get what they're doing. But people are saying that they want to hear more about what my thoughts are on what they're doing and how we make all that work, which was interesting that I spend so much time doing this. Yeah, they're probably right. I don't talk that much about me, or my bits into it, which was an interesting reflection. But you're also right. There is an element there of, I've certainly suggested to people, if they're not getting the ability to get into, like, do presentations, write articles, get themselves known, then we now have these abilities to go and do it ourselves. And when I first started doing this in the UK, I was pretty much the only Human Factors podcast out there and doing what we do. However, there's now a few. We've spoken about them before, and I do like the When Podcast Collides sessions. I now feel that there's less pressure on me as well, because there's content out there, which I feel that because of what we do, we've encouraged others to do it. Therefore, we can sit back a bit. We are the maybe the elders in this thing, and watch the youngsters go and go forth and spread the good word.
Back in my day, we didn't have a restream. Let's beat that. Yeah, let's make a couple things clear. One, competition is healthy and encouraged. And Absolutely. If you're thinking about starting up a human factors or ergonomics or any related field podcast, please reach out. Like, I would love to help empower you to do that. Because of the very reason that you said, Barry, the more voices that we have in this space, the more our field thrives, and the more that we start to see various different opinions and different viewpoints on a whole slew of topics, right? And I love that. I think there
is definitely a rise in different things where people comment on other people's stuff. And where I would love for us to be is for us to be listening to, say, or maybe listen to somebody else's podcast or watch somebody else's podcast, and then for us to do an episode reflecting on what they've said, and do some stuff like that. Because that was one of the suggestions that I've had for mine, is that we do an interview, and I think I mentioned this when we did the CX episode, was that we do an interview, but then we do the following episode is actually a reflection on the interview with a panel or something. So that you're actually making more value out of the content. Because I kind of always, one of the things I've reflected, I guess, with what I do is I interview somebody and I get really excited about that interview. Because I've been so lucky with the sort of guests that I've had. So I get really excited about the interview. I do the interview. That's kind of then, depending on how much time I've got, there's some socials, there's some short form stuff. But then it's kind of over, and you sort of go to the next one. And I don't feel we ever make enough of the prime content that we make. Or certainly, the stuff that I do, I've got somebody sat there for anywhere between half an hour and an hour and a half, and it's kind of done. And I was like, I need to invest time in making more of that. But if we could do, like, say, take any one of the other podcasts, like Heidi's podcast or something like that. So listen, reflect on an episode of Safe and Effective. Whether we agree, especially if it was one where we'd been part of it, and then we decide that we are talking rubbish or something like that. That'd be quite funny.
What do you say there? Yuck. Yeah, I've played around with this idea too of like doing short form interviews and kind of tacking them on to the tail end of our show here, like, and kind of switching up the format. So like, I will say, even though I've not been on, I have still been making efforts in the form of human factors communication, and hopefully some of that will be able to be either announced shortly or I can talk about it a little bit. And I think just know that I'm like on a weekly basis still devoting a little bit of time and care to this project that we've put out there into the world. It's not going away. Cadence might slow down a little bit here and there as real life comes up, but when stories like these, or periods of time, I should say rather, like these come up, then we'll be here to talk about them. I see some folks in the comments. Hey Neil, thanks for joining us. If you are in the comments, you want to leave us. So let me just level set here. A couple things. If you're just joining us, hi, welcome. We're here to talk human factors. And if you notice the title of this thing, we're going to be talking about all the aviation incidents that happened over the last month or so. There's been a lot of them, and we'll try our best to concisely recap them, what kind of factors went into them, and talk through, from a human factors perspective, what is actually going on, because that's our field. And so if you have thoughts on this, one, you have a couple options. One, you can join us right here, be a live caller. You will join us in the back room, backstage, I think they call it, and you'll just let us know. Back rooms. You'll just let us know, hey, I want to talk about this in the private chat, and then you can. We'll try our best to work our way into that conversation, do a nice segue, and bring you in. You let us know if you want to be on camera or not, all those things. And then you're on. You can talk, and you're here on a platform. And if you say anything bad or cuss words or whatever, then well, that's your reputation and not ours. We're just the hosts. So the second thing you can do is, hey, wherever you're watching or listening, there's likely a chat functionality, or a comments functionality that you can engage with. Sometimes it's as simple as a thumbs up. If you do that, that helps this get sent to more people with your similar profile. And so it might get sent to other human factors practitioners or engineers or whatever the big tech industry has deemed you, with all the cookies that you save on your machine, and might help other people find the show. So if you can, that would be helpful. But if you comment, that's even more helpful, because then we can bring your comment into the discussion today. So if you have comments on any of the aircraft incidents, the specific ones that we'll talk, I know there's been a few extra ones outside of these ones, but I think the big ones that we'll talk about here today, obviously we'll talk about the DC incident, the American Airlines, and then we'll talk about the oh, geez. Where to next? I'm just going to go in chronological order here. So January 29th, the DC incident. We have January 31st, the Philadelphia medical jet crash. Then we'll do what's next? February 6th, which is the Alaska commuter plane crash. Then February 17th, which is the Toronto Delta Airlines incident, and then we'll get to the small plane collision in southern Arizona, and that was just yesterday. So still some things pretty timely. I think that this is just in the last, this is January 29th. That's like 2 weeks ago. No, 3 weeks ago.
Do you think, I mean, we we would really talk about this in the in the main show,
We will.
because do you think we've got such a list because of the whole situation at the moment, and we're actually focusing because it's timely in the press, and because they almost everything is guaranteed to get a reaction? That's why we are hearing so much about these particular incidents. Or do you think there is actually a blip of incidents that are causing fatalities more so than usual?
Do you want my official response? My official response is I'm going to wait until the NTSB has completed their investigation on all of these incidents before I chime in and comment. But the
Unfortunately, considering how we're going to do a show on all of them.
I know, how are we going to do a show on all of them when I just said that? So let me I have some suspicion on why we're hearing so much about aircraft incidents. I think the nature of some of these incidents is so infrequent, and because the DC incident happened prior to everything else that we're going to talk about today, I think that one kind of sparked it put a magnifying lens over the aviation industry, and the fact that we've seen so many of them is likely due to increased media attention on the topic. But also, I think there's likely some there's some heightened sensations here. I think the Alaska commuter plane crash probably wouldn't have had the same headlines if the DC crash didn't happen. If the Philadelphia crash hadn't happened right after the DC crash, I don't think we'd be talking about the Alaska commuter plane crash and the small plane collision in Arizona. I think there are three really high profile incidents here that's happened. You have the DC crash, you have the Philadelphia crash, and then you have the Delta crash. And I think those are the three high profile ones that I think are kind of irregular when you think about the circumstances around them, or at least what we know, what official reporting bodies have said about them. And I think because of the temporal resolution of these things, perhaps that is the interesting novel thing here, where you might, like, I don't know, we've had incidents in the past, right? It's just that all these are happening all at once, right? So you have, like, the door getting pulled out of the Boeing like a year or so ago, maybe a year and a half ago. You had you name it. You've had a couple of them out there. I'm drawing a blank because my mind is focusing on these. But I mean, you go back and you see them.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it is. I think there is the whole context. We alluded to earlier with President Trump's reaction, and I think it feels like any type of air incident now in American airspace, we're going to hear about it, because we're going to hear a reaction about, obviously, the whole DEI thing that we're going to be talking about. But what is quite good from our perspective, what I've been interested by, is the amount of commentary that we're getting on social media from experts, shall we say. So pilots who are ex-pilots, and them going, because the immediately available now is things like the ATC discussion. So all that's available. You've got video footage instantaneously. I watched a piece around the Toronto piece, and there was somebody put a montage of video together that was just phenomenal. But we get that so quickly now, that it actually makes interesting content, backed off with an American president saying all sorts of crazy stuff,
inflammatory.
Yeah. So it's an interesting coalescing of some significant incidents and then a hyper spotlight.
Oh wait, sorry, I'm in the States. I must refer to him as dear leader.
No, you can't do that anymore. He's the
King.
His Majesty. I think King Charles might have something to say about that. But still, you do you. You guys elected him, so you're obviously.
When you say you guys, you are grossly generalizing there. I think. Okay. So yeah, those are the ones that we'll talk about. We'll bring in some news sources here. We'll bring in the latest details that we have on each of these. We have done our due diligence here to look through the latest NTSB reports. We are pulling in, the latest news sources, any commentary that they've made. We'll talk probably the most about the DC incident because one happened. It's the first one on this list of incidents, but also I think there's probably been the most reporting, and I think there's a lot more human factors things going on in that scenario, especially when we get into visibility, communication, sightlines, just all that stuff. I think there's a lot to really pick apart there. And again, this is all conjecture based on what's currently out there. We'll get to it when we get to the show. But if you all have comments on this, and I see Neil's already going off in the comments, and I love it, Neil. I'm going to make sure I bring these up during the show, so that way everyone can hear them. And then if anyone has other comments, feel free to leave them. We'll try to weave them in throughout the discussion as it makes sense to do so. And then let's see here. I'm trying to think. What else we got? Anything else?
What that we got to talk about with these stories? You mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's...
You want human factors? We got human factors for you.
Yeah, if you want to talk about something else outside of these plane crashes, then feel free to drop a comment and let us know what you want to talk about, because we can flex. That's fine. We are professionals. We can offer opinions on many things. Some of them might even be informed. Some of them less.
Some of them, yeah. Okay. All right. And then if if it's not related to it, we might bring it into the post show. We're going to be hanging around for the next hour and a half or so, breaking all this stuff down. And we're going to have as good of a time as we can doing it. Always kind of a heavy topic talking about incidents where there's a loss of life, but I think it's necessary in our field, and safety's a big part of what we do. And we do it because we don't want to see loss of life. So I guess that's your trigger warning for tonight. If you can't handle discussions around that, then this one might not be for you, and that's okay. Come back next time. I'll say candidly, the Philadelphia one really got to me. Just some of the details around that one, kind of ripped my heart out and stomped all over it. It was
it has everything in it. If you think about it, it's the type of jet that it was, the type of flight that it was doing, the where the accident happened. All not cool stuff.
No.
So yes, no, I can completely empathize with that.
Okay. Well, I think. Oh boy. I charged into this with a lot of energy, and I had
just go.
I had no. It's not gone. I had a ton of confidence, but then I just had the moment of, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff to talk about. How are we going to do this in an hour? So we'll try our best.
We'll be fine. Or we'll cut it off an hour and just say, come back next time.
We'll come back next week. Part 2. Yes. All right. So shall we, I guess, then start the show?
Well, we could do that.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Quick break.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
Barry, question for you. Do you ever get jealous of like old timey newscasters who are like, don't adjust your sets, folks, when an anomaly happens or something?
No, but I can see where you're coming from.
You can see what, yeah. Well, don't adjust your podcast catchers or sets, folks, because we're here. Yes, yes. This is episode 307. We're recording this episode live, as you can tell, on February 20th. It's been a minute since we've been here. And this is Human Factors Cast. I'm your host, Nick Rome. I'm joined today by Mr. Barry Kirby.
Hello.
Hey, but where have we been? What's been going on?
Well, you came up with some excuses around. You've had work. You've had like things going on. I came up with excuses like I've been doing work and things going on. Yeah, I think life just has thoroughly got in the way. But we're back now.
But we're back, and we have a show for you tonight. And I say a show. I usually say a fun show, an exciting show, an awesome show. This one is going to be potentially a little difficult to talk about. If you see the title of this episode, we're going to be talking about all the aviation incidents that have been happening over the last month that we've been off air. Some of the details around these things can get a little sensitive, especially as we are talking about the loss of life. And so I wanted to give sort of a warning at the top. If this is not the episode for you, that's okay. Come back. We're happy to have you next time. We are going to try to focus most of our discussion on the human factors aspects of these aviation incidents. And specifically, we'll be going over 5 of them that are higher profile that have happened in the last month. But before we do that, I always like to check in with my good friend Barry to see what's been going on with 1202.
Well, this will be quite a quick conversation because absolutely nothing. I've got to be honest. We are taking a bit of a break at the start of this year. Again, I'm going to refer back to my previous comments about how life's getting in the way. But we hope to get back to things before the Ergonomics Conference here in the UK. So back end of April is the Ergonomics Conference, and we aim to have some content coming out before that, and then some of the stuff that we'll be doing during that, and then for the rest of the year. We hope to dive into a slightly different format, slightly newer format. And we've got a bit of a long-term vision about where we want to go in terms of we're running up to IEA 2027. And so we want to ramp up some things to that. So that's a long way around saying absolutely nothing so far, Nick. Absolutely nothing.
Hey, well, great to have you here. So you can contribute to this. So yeah, we're gonna get started. And I think how do we do this podcasting thing? We roll the. Yes, it's Human Factors News. This is the part of the show where we talk all about Human Factors News. Barry, we don't have a blurb this week, but maybe you could go over some of the aviation incidents that have happened over the last month and maybe a little summary on each of them, maybe where they happened.
Yep.
I think that might be a good way to get us all up to date if you haven't been checking in with the news and what's been going on. So Barry, over to you.
Yeah, so for this show, we are going to be focused on 5 main incidents that have happened in the past month or within 2025. So the first one of note was the quite high profile collision between a helicopter and a plane in Washington, where an Army helicopter and American Airlines flight collided and killing all the people on board the 2 aircraft. It's been described as the country's deadliest aviation disaster since 2001. So we're going to get into that one. This was then followed literally a couple of days later by an air ambulance crashing in Philadelphia onto a busy Philadelphia street, killing 7, which is tragic in a whole number of ways. But it was a medical transport jet with a child patient, mother, and 4 others on board, crashing into a Philadelphia neighborhood. that killed 7 people, all those aboard, and injuring 19 others. So that was a Learjet that there was a medical transport. This then was followed by a commuter plane crashing in Alaska, which on February the 6th, which killed the pilot and 9 passengers. A single-engine turboprop Cessna Caravan disappeared about an hour after taking off, and the Coast Guard said the aircraft went missing about 30 miles southeast of Nome. White search, the body and the debris were found the next day on the sea ice. So we'll be covering a bit of that. Then later on in Toronto, this is probably another one of the more the high-profile ones, where a Delta plane arriving at Toronto's Pearson Airport, flying in from Minneapolis, flipped on landing on its roof, injuring at least 17 people. And actually, for me, one of the most stunning things outside of this is there was only injuries rather than fatalities. So the amount of video footage available from that is mind blowing. This was then followed. Oh, am I up to date now? And then, sorry, there was the final one that we'll be looking at is one in South Arizona, where there was a small plane collision, which was between 2 small planes, resulting in 2 fatalities. And so that was yesterday. So yeah, so we're going to be covering all 5 of them. And where do you want to begin?
Okay, so I think we begin with the disclaimer. The disclaimer is as such. All of these are currently under investigation. What we're going to be talking about today is our best understanding of the situation as it stands today, which is, again, February 20th, 2025. So if you're listening to this in the future, there may be new information, new details that come out about any one of these incidents. And so please take what we're saying today with a grain of salt. Again, we're going to talk through these from a human factors perspective. So, and we'll talk about them from that perspective with the details that are available. So I think maybe we talk about the ones that maybe happened recently, and then kind of work our way back, just because we will have less details about the ones that happened recently. And I think that's kind of a safe bet for us to kind of move backwards. What do you think, Barry?
Yeah, no, that works for me. So let's talk about the one that happened yesterday, where there was a small plane collision in southern Arizona.
Yeah. So do you want to go through the details, or do you want me to read off some, or how do you want to?
You go for it, and then we'll dive into it.
All right, so it looks like this one was this was 2 small aircraft, a Cessna 172 and a Lancair 360. And so what happened is the Cessna landed, and the other plane came and hit the ground, caught fire, and that's what we know about it. 2 people confirmed unalived. One, I have to use that because we're streaming on TikTok. Hey, go check that out. Bad plug. Let's see here. No chance for medical responders to provide treatment. Police didn't identify which planes they were in. And then it looks like that's really all the details we have on this one. We don't really know what details were. Oh wait, hang on. This one is actually a midair collision.
Yeah, it is. Yes. So we will be talking later about the Black Hawk also being a mid-air collision, and so this one will be interesting because it will have a focus on what the aircraft were doing, and obviously there will be an air traffic control element to that as well, which is obviously very I want to say popular, but very very talked about at the moment. With how air traffic control is right now. So there's going to be a lot of issues coming out of this investigation about how they were in the same airspace, why they weren't deconflicted, why they weren't aware of each other, if they were aware of each other, and it must have been said it was, it must have been quite I guess, high energy, shall we say, because of the nature of there was just no opportunity to provide medical treatment.
Mhm.
It was.
Yeah, and again, this one's very new to us. Again, this happened yesterday, and so there's no details, surrounding sort of who was at fault here, why they collided in midair. There's just a lack of details, but perhaps some of the details that are present in the DC, some, not all, some in the DC incident, I think might play a similar role here. Although, again, all that is speculation. We do not know. I think, given the small amount of details on that one, let's back up and go with Delta, because this one was actually widely captured by a couple of different perspectives. This is one of the ones that was filmed I think there's a couple of different perspectives, right? There's one camera that's on the tarmac watching planes come and go, and then there was another actually captured by a pilot um, in another plane waiting to taxi to the waiting to taxi. And so and that one actually caught, the thing flipping over, catching fire. And then there's been several videos of like passengers who were getting off of that plane. You can kind of see the chaos, and the staff on that whole thing was just like really, really awesome. I think the good news about this story is that all 80 passengers and crew survived. 21 sustained injuries, but like, come on, for something like that to happen. Wow. All right. What do you want to talk about with that one?
Well, there was one other video that I think I only saw yesterday or the day before, which so somebody put together this montage, and there's a video on the flight itself of the pilot giving the passengers a brief about what was going wrong and what was happening. And so they knew they were coming into an emergency landing. There was an issue with the undercarriage, and the pilot is explaining to the passengers that whilst they've got one of the tires has gone on one of the undercarriage wheels, they're in pairs and they are rated to land on it, to land on the other tire, and it should be fine. But the pilot was also being quite honest in saying it should be fine. We don't actually know, so we are making sure we take all the preparations required and needed. And from a to take that bit alone, I think was just shows the way the professionalism of the pilot involved. I'm assuming it was pilot. It might have been the co-pilot doing the briefing. I'm not can't say for certain, but the professionalism within the cockpit to make sure that the passengers in the back know exactly what's going on, to be prepared for what's going on, and being honest. It's having the right sort of I guess culture in that, to say this is what we believe is going to happen, but this is what could happen, and obviously then eventually when to happen. We then cut to, as you say, the pilot who sat waiting for clearance. They know that this aircraft's coming in, and you can see it clearly that there's been a the call to Mayday, so everybody knows what's going on, and he's tracking it coming in, and the way it lands, you can sort of see it coming in, landing presumably quite lightly, or as light as it can, with some weight shift over to one side.
Mhm.
But as soon as this I believe the right hand undercarriage, rear undercarriage hits, it just folds, or it lands and then folds, and the whole thing just flips over. And you look at that from that perspective. There's fire, there's high amounts of energy being coming out here, and you've got to think to yourself, nobody's surviving that. The amount of just the amount of movement involved, the amount of energy of hitting the tarmac and rotational energy, all that sort of stuff. You can't be thinking that you get out of this with 21 people. I would say some significant injuries, but surviving with just injuries. And you're right that you then cut to a piece where you see the passengers and the crew coming off this upside down aircraft, almost as if, yep, no, it's well drilled. It's well, we're all happy coming off the aircraft. So I think that, yes, it's a terrible incident in many ways because you've lost an aircraft and all that sort of stuff. But I think that it just shows what happens when good training, good clearly rehearsal of skills, and having the right staff doing the right thing. That could have been way worse than what it was if there'd been complete panic, if there'd been if passengers hadn't been doing what they did. And even once the thing was stationary and you're getting the passengers off the aircraft, that was still a quite significant point where there could have been significant injuries, falls, trips, all that sort of stuff. And I think that's a testament to the crew and the airline.
Yeah, you bring up some great points, and I want to give a shout out to Neil Gainey and Kelly Steelman, who a while ago did a effort around sort of collecting good news stories. And while this is really at its surface kind of like a hard story to look at and say it's good news because there was an aviation incident, I think you are absolutely bringing up some great points here about training, about the safety mechanisms and processes that were in play that made it so that way all the passengers made sure that they were buckled in, all the crew knew what to do in this situation, the communication between the pilot and the passengers, and just everything about this. If all these things weren't in place, and even to the safety systems on the airplane, right? The engineering behind the fuselage to make sure that it can sustain a certain level of impact, the skills of the pilots and all the instrumentation that was assisting them with the landing that they knew they were going to have trouble with. And Neil's in the comments saying, yes, Barry, it's a very extreme incident, but this is a good news story. And I completely agree. You can't get better than everybody surviving with injuries. I mean, yes, injuries, but like the cost of human life is just immeasurable. So I think that's a good news story. Again, we're still kind of looking at details around this one. This one's under investigation. I think is there a joint effort going on by the NTSB and the Canadian equivalent, which is the what is it? The Transportation Safety Board of Canada. I think there might be a joint investigation because
I would imagine. Well, there's got to be because it's it's at a Canadian airport.
Yeah,
using with the American airline. So yes, it will be.
exactly.
Will be joint.
Yep, and Neil said it best. Planes can be replaced, people can't. Okay, maybe let's move on to the next one here. Again, we're going to going back in time. So we did the Southern Arizona small plane collision yesterday. This Delta Airlines incident was just 3 days ago. A little bit further back now, I think we're back at February 6th was the Alaska commuter plane crash. Again, we don't really know much about this. We do have some information, and this is where we start getting into the less than happy ending stories. It kind of gets much worse from here, folks. So
so this was this is every I would say an everyday flight. So this is a commuter plane in Alaska. This is where people are going to try and do routine things like medical appointments, attend work meetings, buy supplies, that type of thing. People who use these trips for on an almost everyday basis. This Bering Air single engine turboprop Cessna Caravan was traveling and it disappeared about an hour after takeoff. So it disappeared from radar and no comms were heard. The Coast Guard said the aircraft went missing about 30 miles southeast of Nome. Because of that, there was a wide search, and the plane's body was found. So it was splintered up and debris. They didn't find it till the next day. The day of the crash, the weather was light snow and fog. Temperature 17 degrees Fahrenheit, which is minus 8.3 degrees Celsius. and so these were just short hop flights. It's just part of that whole sort of network of doing that. Little is known at the moment about what the true cause of that was. It'll be investigated. I should imagine it's going to be quite a hard thing to actually get down to what truly happened, because of the size and type of aircraft. It won't have the same sort of devices on that you would expect a larger aircraft to have. But also, it'd be interesting to know how much effort would be put into it to piece all of that together, given what it was. So, but it was tragic that everybody was killed on board. And there'll be questions asked around were they, was that part of the actual collision or part of the incident, or because of the environment that they crashed in, cold, wet,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So, yes, I don't think there's much more we can truly add to that.
Here's some details. Before, let's see, it climbed to a cruising altitude of about 7,700 feet prior to the disappearance on radar. Flight's pilot informed Anchorage Air Traffic Control that he would begin a holding pattern with the plane while waiting for the runway to be cleared. Then there was a statement here by Coast Guard Lieutenant Commander. No distress signals were received from the plane. U.S. Civil Air Patrol stated that around 3:18 p.m., the aircraft had undergone, quote, some kind of event which caused them to experience a rapid loss in elevation and a rapid loss in speed. So we're not quite sure what that is. Coast Guard said that the plane went missing. We already knew that. Let's see here. And I think everything else here, I'm looking at, so the NTSB investigation, they're launching an investigation about this because it's a fatal crash. Let's see here. Under preliminary stages of investigation, and we're monitoring developments. So no official statement other than that. So I'm pulling up the latest on these things as we're talking through them, so that way we can bring you what we know at this time. So again, this is kind of these are the details that we know here. We don't really know much, but we'll get to the point where we know much. Okay. This next one, tough. This next one's tough.
It is. It's so we're now going to Philadelphia, where a Learjet 55, a medical transport jet, has had a patient, a child with mother and 4 others on board, has crashed into a Philadelphia neighborhood at the end of January, exploding into a fireball that engulfed several homes. So there's not only the onboard people who were killed then, but there's also the people on the ground and significant injuries. According to the sources we have, the aircraft took off and then plummeted into a steep descent, crashing less than a minute after takeoff from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. The plane hit the ground, and it was as unlucky would have it, because it's a busy Friday. It's left a scene of devastation for at least 4 blocks.
Probably the most recorded event out of all these. This is probably the one that I've seen the most points of view on, from various perspectives. I don't know if there's a supercut out there, but there's like Ring cameras that caught this on footage. There's people who were at drive-throughs who caught sort of the immediate aftermath. There are dash cams that saw this happen, because the impact was right in the middle of an intersection.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and just significant. I think issues like this obviously come way more into play because of where it's happened, in contrast to the previous one we were talking about in Alaska. There's just everything about this is a tragedy, from the type of aircraft it was, and being a air ambulance, all the way through to being that it crashed into a very busy urban area. So this will have caused a massive response from emergency services. and I should imagine that the amount of coordination that would have needed to have happened. I wonder, and I don't know whether this is the sort of thing that they would do exercises for. This amount of coordination this close to an airport, whether this would be a scenario that they would play out. On the one hand, you'd think, well, they probably would, given what they're doing, but actually, given what it takes to have that sort of exercise going on and the amount of different actors involved, then you could easily see that actually maybe they don't, because of the nature of what it is. So there's been a whole lot of coordination going on to make that as safe as it can, as quickly as it can be. So yeah, it's ongoing investigations as to actually why. I don't know whether you've got more update information as to the if there's any updated cause to it, but in the grand scheme of things, it's still being investigated.
Yeah, this one's the toughest one. I'm looking for official updates from the NTSB on this one, and I am pulling up blanks. I think I'm just looking over to see if there were any other details that we may have missed here. I do know that early on there was issues recovering the black box, but I think that was shortly recovered after. Looking at sort of the immediate response, just from a human factors perspective, in terms of public safety communication, this is interesting because this is one of those situations where the aircraft itself was an event, but then also there's some immediate aftermath with how to how to handle the public with the area that is affected, right? And so I think really interesting response from the teams there. I think there's a couple detours that were set up, but then just generally there was a lot of it happened in a working class area, and so there's a lot of folks impacted, and so folks came out. They all were trying to help each other, and it looks like that's all we know at this time. I'm again trying to double check my sources here to make sure there's any latest on this, but I am not seeing any. Okay. Let me just make sure. There's a briefing on February 1st, and I don't think. Yep, I don't think there's anything new. Okay, so let's get to probably the highest profile one that maybe sparked more media attention towards the other ones here. And I think this one is also good to cover because it has probably the most direct human factors applications that we can talk through. And again, like, this is going to be from our perspective, what we know today. I don't know where we start with this one, Barry. Do we just want to talk through what happened, and then maybe go from there?
So the basics are the mid-air collision. So an Army helicopter, Army Black Hawk helicopter, and an American Airlines regional jet collided in near Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport in DC. They collided and then crashed into the Potomac River. And the initial the initial indications were that the helicopter flew straight into the path of the American Airlines regional jet. We then hear we get a lot of reporting that the air traffic controllers tried to make the Black Hawk aware of the aircraft to make sure to help it deconflict. So deconfliction makes sure that they don't collide, and then nothing seems to work. Both aircraft collide, and all 67 people aboard both aircraft are killed. And there was an operation to pull the bodies from the river. What it was, I guess, what then made it such a story was not only the fact that what it happened and the incident had such a catastrophic loss of life, and the nature of the incident, but then the President Trump and the White House then suggested as to causes about why it was happening and coming up with solutions before any sort of investigation had taken place, and that has then been that catalyst for, I guess, a greater intensity of media scrutiny on the other four issues that we've talked about in this episode. Because I guess if we're going to look at the elephant in the room about this, President Trump blamed DEI on the crew in the Black Hawk, but also then the air traffic controllers, and the called into question the professionalism of the air traffic controllers and of the crew. We now know that as things have developed, there's definitely some questions, some human factors questions around the work that air traffic control was doing to try and deconflict these two aircraft, because there's and this is still an ongoing investigation, so we're only going with what's given, but there's a potential belief that whilst air traffic control were highlighting the aircraft in front of them to deconflict with, there was actually another aircraft nearby, and there's thought that they were deconflicting with the other aircraft, not the one that was right in front of them. That is then compounded by some more recent discussion around whether they're actually doing night vision training, and so that they're wearing night vision goggles in order to get recertified onto that. And if you're wearing night vision goggles, then it gives you a very thin, so you don't see light in the same way. It's the way that they work is you have to be looking pretty much at the source in order to see what's going on. So it's not like you would easily notice a light in your more peripheral vision because the way that works. And so then there was also an element of why they were flying above a normal altitude for the route that they were doing. The route that they were doing was completely normal. It was something that they should be doing, but there is a question around the altitude that they were flying at, because they were clear to around 200 feet. And this happened at much higher than that. So there's a lot going on here.
Lots of details.
A lot, yes.
I'm going to propose a drinking game to anyone who's following along right now. Anytime we say ongoing investigation or investigation in progress, take a drink.
Yes, that's not a bad.
Okay. We don't know all the details. Take a drink. So I think I don't know if I'd like to talk so much about the United States government's official statements on the matter, but I would like to talk about sort of the impacts of what is going on at the air traffic control level. And I think there's the trick with this is that there's so many different things that we could sort of get into, and I tend to think about this accident in some of the classic human factors categories, right? We have this visual situational awareness issue between the two aircraft. You have communication and coordination that's happening between the two. You have procedures that are being followed, but again, because of some of the visual things that were happening, whether that's the night vision and seeing the wrong plane and deconflicting with the wrong aircraft, I think there's some communication challenges happening there. On top of all this, the Army helicopter was running a simulation, and so they were probably under an increased workload while they were doing this because they were managing other things in addition to this. What's happening from an automation perspective. You know, I know one of the details that the NTSB came out with at one point was that at one of the in the tail end of time before the crash, the aircraft attempted to raise the nose, and so they were aware that the collision was going to happen on board. You know, you can also look at some of the environmental conditions that was going on, especially because it was nighttime. There's a greater increase in the or a decrease in visual acuity when it comes to seeing other vehicles, and then you compound that with the night vision goggles. There's a lot going on here, and we could really each one of those could be an episode in its own right. But I think I'll go back to our chat right now, and I'm going to bring in some comments that Neil was bringing up. So I think the first thing that I'll mention here is that there's a problem with finding and training air traffic controllers to replace those who are retiring. So it's a huge challenge, and it's resulting in more pressure being put onto the remaining ATC personnel. And I think that's obviously a contributing factor here. I think you know, the procedures at play here, the air traffic controller was doing everything that they were trained to do. They were communicating with both aircraft. The procedures that they follow, they rerouted the is American Airlines. I'm getting confused with all these. American Airlines, they rerouted them from one runway to another, which is why you know, some of this happened. I think the communication challenges with the Army helicopter. I think what had happened, there was I need to find the exact statement, because this is from memory. So let me find the exact statement, but I'm going to say it and then I'll get the exact statement. What had happened, I think, was that there was a push to talk type scenario where part of the communications was covered by the push to talk, and so the Army helicopter may not have received the full communication. And I need to find the official statement on that. Let's see here. So okay, maybe you can talk a little bit about it while I look for that exact statement.
Yeah, I guess to pull in the bit around air traffic control itself, because of the time that it was. Normally, you would have two air traffic controllers, one covering the helicopter traffic and one of the either arriving or departing planes. You have another air traffic controller covering the other half of the workload. But what would normally happen, because at that time of night the level of intensity of work goes down, that is why you then roles will be combined, because the workload is less. So there is a vein of thought that actually, you know, that there was too much workload for one operator, but this was pretty much business as usual for what they're doing.
I found the statement. I would like to say the statement before we continue. So it says 17 seconds before impact, a radio transmission from the tower was audible on both CVRs, directing the Black Hawk to pass behind the CRJ. Behind the CRJ. CVR data from the Black Hawk indicated that the position of the transmission that stated, quote, pass behind the, end quote, may not have been received by the Black Hawk crew. Transmission was stepped on by a 0.8 second mic key from the Black Hawk. The Black Hawk was keying the mic to communicate with ATC, so they may not have heard pass behind the.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think as more and more comes out of this, then there's going to be more and more of a spotlight on each different bit, because there was nuances behind this. I mean, I think we can't do this without talking about the statements from the White House and the significant impact that will have on the investigation, because this idea of, you know, we certainly within air traffic control, within within the aerospace sector, we have this idea of a just culture. And the aerospace industry is a forerunner in the human factors world, for not only trying to do what it can to prevent accidents in the first place, but also then when accidents happen, to investigate and come up with the reasoning as to why something happened. Them investigations, as we've already said, whoever wants to drink can drink. Investigations are ongoing because each one of these need all of that. So for the president to stand up there within an hour? It was very, very quick. To blame it on DEI.
I'll read the snippet of the statement that is relevant to this conversation, but I'm not giving the rest of it the time of day. Something Biden administration something requiring all executive departments, agencies to implement dangerous diversity, equity, and inclusion tactics, and specifically recruiting individuals with, quote, severe intellectual, end quote, disabilities in the FAA. And I'm going to immediately discount that because makes me mad.
The FAA were very quick to come back to that and state that whilst, I mean, there are DEI hiring things around there, you know, there was a positive drive to bring in people from a range of backgrounds. Not once they all still had to meet the hiring guidelines of air traffic control for the FAA. So, in the grand scheme of things, this has got nothing to do with what happened. Though what he has now done is automatically set sights of people who don't necessarily get involved in this type of thing. So Joe Public, or automatically feeling that this is to blame when it's not. And not only does that go against, and it'll make life difficult for the investigators to come out with whatever the result is. When they could reach a conclusion, and if that is different, and it's going to be different, I would put a lot of money on it's going to be different from what President Trump has claimed. Then how seriously will that be taken, and will it be learned from? But then what does that do for the air traffic control culture going forward, or the air traffic control organizations going forward, about, you know, how much will their environment be changed? Will their culture have to change to deal with the way that the White House has basically treated them in this incident?
Not only air traffic control culture, but human factors culture. And
Yep.
and speaking of that this is actually a really good segue to something that was released today. And I'm going to read parts and bits of this, but the full statement is available on the HFES website. I will say that they put out a statement here, a statement from the Human Factors and Ergonomics Society on the DC aircraft accident and aviation safety. I'll read a couple of passages that are relevant to the discussion that we're talking about right now. As a nonprofit society composed of scientists and engineers specializing in human factors and ergonomics, including flight deck and air traffic control systems, HFES emphasizes the importance of relying on evidence-based and established safety principles when assessing aviation incidents. Further, it is critical to clarify that in the 75 plus years of aviation research and engineering, there have never been any elements associated with diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility identified as a causal factor in an aviation collision.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good statement, and I applaud HFES for putting that out. There's a lot more to that statement. Paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of it. Every one of them, I think, is golden, and I thoroughly recommend anybody to go and read the entire thing. But I think that the bit about it being we use scientific rigor to investigate these incidents is absolutely key, because it's true. Ever since we had the early air incidents where we seek to understand why incidents have happened, and not just because a piece of kit is broken, but then also go back into why that piece of kit was broken, which is kind of the birth of the whole human factors, human error, operator error, human error is never the answer, etc., etc. Just to then go and claim that it was because of DEI is mad. The other side of it, we've talked a lot about the air traffic control here, but there is the crew of the Black Hawk as well. That the military were then under pressure, not to necessarily name the crew of the Black Hawk, but to tell us were they male or female. And the family of one of the aircrew didn't want that released because of this negative and abhorrent focus on the DEI aspect of that. Unfortunately, they then did have to release her name and put it out there because of largely press intrusion, or being put out there on social media and things. But I just think the whole thing, the incident itself is a tragedy, and hopefully we'll get to the investigation. We'll find out exactly what happened. We will learn from it, and it won't be in vain. Positive things will come out of it for the future of aviation. But it's an absolute tragedy for culture, for the way that all the this state, this bit of government is now driving a wedge between basically everybody in this field, and that is the reason why we've then focused on the other 4 incidents in this episode. Is all because of that one statement.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna leave you all with another passage from HFES's official response. It reads, "We encourage the community to rely on evidence and science-based analysis and establish safety principles when assessing this or any incidents. HFES will wait for the National Transportation Safety Board and the appropriate bodies to conclude their independent and disciplined work to determine facts and causal factors involved. NTSB's findings and recommendations are critical to inform system design, training, policy, and procedural changes to the aviation industry that will enhance safety." So again, bringing it all back, our work is important in human factors, and I just want to kind of leave it there. I think it's a great message, and appreciate HFES for putting that out there. So I think any closing words on any of the aviation pieces that we talked about this week, Barry?
I think we've had a variety and breadth of tragedy across all 5 of these. Obviously, we've highlighted the one in Toronto as being, yes, a crash, but a success story from the way that everybody survived, which is fantastic. But on the whole, there's been such a difference in size, impact, location, but they've all had that common theme, which has been, let's work out what's happened. Let's work out why it happened, who was involved, why did we get to where we got to, and we as a community will drive into that to make sure that we get to the proper causes of that. So it won't just be operator error. It'll be understanding how we got there in the first place. And despite the variety in what they are and the size, all that sort of stuff, they will all have that same output, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so too. There'll definitely be some lessons learned from this that'll prevent things like this from happening again in the future. All right. Thank you to our friends over at, we got a lot of our sources from the Associated Press, PBS, we had HFES, we had the NTSB, we had a lot of sources in there. So thank you, huge thank you to all of these sources who are bringing us the latest up-to-date information on all of this. If you want to follow along, we'll post the links in our blog. You can join us on our Discord if you want to talk more about this in the downtime between episodes. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to see what our one more thing is this week because we're running out of time. All right, back after this. Are you tired of boring lectures and textbooks on human factors and UX? Well, grab your headphones and get ready for a wild ride with the Human Factors Minute podcast. Each minute is like a mini crash course packed with valuable insights and information on various organizations, conferences, usability methods, theories, models, certifications, tools, and much more. We'll take you on a journey through the fascinating world of human factors, from the ancient history to the latest trends and developments. Listen in as we explore the field and discover new ways to enhance the user experience. From the Think Aloud protocol to the critical incident technique, focus groups, iterative design, we'll make sure that you're the smartest person in the room. Tune in on the 10th, the 20th, and the last day of every month for a new and interesting tidbit related to human factors. Don't miss out on the Human Factors Minute podcast, your ultimate source for all things human factors.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our monthly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and access to the full library of Human Factors Minute, a weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
Yes, huge thank you as always to the folks who support the show monetarily, patrons. I'm talking to you. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I know we're not as frequent with publishing as we have been, but hopefully the content that we do bring to you is at least something valuable and worthwhile. And if you'd like to show your support, there you go. You can do that and truly all keep the lights on, keep all this stuff functional. So that way, when we do hop into the studio, I'm not pulling out my credit card to go, "Hey." All right. It's been a minute since we talked, and unfortunately, we didn't have a whole lot of time for the "It Came From" section. Thank you to Neil for chiming off in the comments there and helping us break down some of the stories from today. So what we'll do is we'll get into one more thing. It's been a minute since we all met here. So Barry, what is your one more thing this week? And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and preempt this by saying a few one more things is okay.
That's good because I've got 3. So on the last, if you remember dim distant past when we did the last episode, I said that Amanda had bought me, Amanda, my wife, had bought
Pottery.
me a pottery lesson. Well, I did said pottery lesson, and I got the outcome of that a few days ago, and it is now the next best thing in terms of hobbies. So I'm now people who know me know that I do hobbies in a very all-in sort of way, and so I'm now looking for pottery wheels for kilns. I'm building a little pottery studio. It was just really fantastic to be able to do something that was very practical, but also kind of engineering-y and scientific-y because of what the stuff that's going on. But you have to concentrate on it, so you have to forget about everything else, which was really so thoroughly enjoyed that, and I can't wait to do more stuff. I'll just apologize now. Most people at Christmas are going to be getting pottery-related outcomes. Possibly the most important thing I need to do today is wish Amanda a very happy wedding anniversary, because it's our wedding anniversary today. And so she won't be listening now. So, but I can say to everybody else that it's our wedding anniversary, and we've been together quite a long time now. The last thing is you might remember a couple of years ago me going, Nick, I've just been elected to the as president-elect of the Chartered Institute of Ergonomics and Human Factors, and we were like going, that's crazy to let anybody on there. And so I've been on a journey of being president-elect, president, past president, and today I had my last executive meeting with the Chartered Institute, which was just crazy in terms of a journey. So I've got one more. Well, I've got 2 more I guess, obligations to do. So we've got a council meeting coming up in, I think, about 3 weeks' time, so it's a final full council meeting. And then I've got some duties to perform at conference where I host the award ceremony again. I'm the first president, I think, to host 3 ceremonies in a row for various reasons. Most times you just do one, and that's it. It's your outgoing duty. But clearly, I'm either really good at it, or I suspect really bad at it. And they say, no, come back, do it again until you get it right.
Take 2.
Yeah, well, this case takes 3. So it was it felt a bit weird to be sort of letting that ship sail. Anyway, so yeah, they're my 3 one more things.
I have to ask you. I had specifically requested a picture that was reminiscent of the movie Ghost. Do you have it? Do you have it?
Not until I get my own. Not until I get my own wheel.
Okay.
And even then, Amanda has suggested that that's not happening.
All right.
And I'm like, but funsies.
But for funsies. Oh, maybe we can show the outcomes of your pottery in the post show. I have the picture up.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, we could do that.
Okay,
make that happen. Anyway, what about you? What are your one more things?
Okay, I have a couple one more things. One, I don't know if I mentioned it at the top of the show, new medical diagnosis. And I know I mentioned it in the pre-show, new medical diagnosis. One of the things that comes with that is the obsessive tracking of certain biomarkers associated with me, and sort of changing the way that I eat and exercise. And long time listeners will know that I have been looking for something specific for a very long time. But and that specific thing has been the integration of health records from your medical institution with data that you collect from your wearables, your fitness devices, your various trackers. So I have a couple things here, right? The new medical diagnosis has kind of sparked everything. You remember last time I had talked about the new gym equipment. That's kind of part of it. And so along with that, I've been doing obsessive tracking. And Eagle Eye viewers of this might notice I got a new ring on. So I got one of those ring wearables.
Oh, cool.
And it tracks everything. And the reason I'm talking about this is specifically because my other tracker, which is a wrist worn tracker, gives me like a really terrible rash. And so like I'll go through this phase where I have this really bad rash on my arm, and then I'll stop wearing it for months, and then the rash will heal. And what I've started doing is wearing the ring, and then in when I'm doing exercises and I don't want the ring to crumble under a dumbbell's weight or something, I'll switch to the arm based one, and I just wear that one and then kind of track my performance by using both of those. And the reason I talk about those is because I'm tracking all these metrics. Where do they go? Well, they go into Health Connect, and then I'm gonna boost this because this is the integration of the health records and the biomarkers. And so Guava Health, if you're unfamiliar, that is what I've been doing, and it's really great because what you can do is, and I can get kickback. I'm not going to put any promo codes out there or anything unless you want them. Reach out to me on Discord, happy to give them to you. But I'm just giving this out because of the goodness of my heart. It's so cool. You can track a lot of different things, and if you pay for the paid version, it'll run statistical analyses of some of the things that you are tracking, right? So if I'm seeing an increased heart rate on Thursdays between 2 and 4 p.m., then it's because it'd be like, hey, every Thursday at this time, your heart rate is going up. Why is that? Oh, it's because I have a podcast then, and I need to be up and energetic. But you can also do it with other things. Like I've started obsessively tracking my mood every few hours. I've started obsessively tracking my blood pressure. Other things, and so you can see and compare it with other environmental effects like weather, air pressure, weather patterns, these types of things, and it'll run these statistical analyses in the background. So the more data that you have on yourself, the more interesting insights that you can get about these things. And it'll run it against everything. You can look at your previous blood work, lab results, and see what various biomarkers were, and it's just very cool. Very cool if you're into understanding your body. and sort of what is going on with it, and perhaps maybe some insights that you weren't aware of. For me, it was blood pressure and air pressure, which kind of makes sense. But that's one that came up for me. But you can kind of see what other people have found. Yeah, so that's my 3: new diagnosis, new ring, the new UI to help me manage everything, and new me.
Yay!
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for today, everyone. If you like this episode and enjoy some of the discussion about aviation topics, I know we've done a whole host of episodes in the past. Go listen to any one of those. Those are all great. Comment where you're listening with what you think of the stories this week. If you have any thoughts on aviation safety, DEI, the human factors and ergonomics official response to the thing, let us know. For more in-depth discussion and in between episodes, you can always join us on our Discord community. Visit our official website, sign up for our newsletter, stay up to date with all the latest human factors news. If you like what you hear, you want to support the show, you can leave us a 5-star review, a like, a subscribe, wherever you're watching or listening right now. That really helps, whether you think so or not. All those cookies are giving your information to other. It's pairing you with other human factors people, and it might help other people find the show. 2, you can tell people directly about us. Tell your friends about us. That helps us grow so much. And then 3, if you have the financial means to, you want to support the show financially, you can do that. Consider supporting us on Patreon. As always, links to all of our socials and our website are in the description of this episode. Mr. Barry Kirby, thanks for being on the show and helping me break down all these aviation incidents. Where can our listeners go and find you if they want to talk about where you're getting your pilot's license?
Yeah, if you want to come and chat to me, then you can find me on most socials, such as Facebook, Blue Sky, everything else except pretty much X. You can find me it's some variation of Baz_K or Mr. BP Kirby. If you want to come and listen to me chat to amazing people in the human factors domain, come and listen to my podcast, which is 1202 the Human Factors Podcast at 1202podcast.com.
As for me, I've been your host, Nick Rome. You can find me on our Discord and across social media at Nick_Rome. Getting really into Blue Sky. Blue Sky's cool. Let's talk about it in the post show. And if you're sticking around, stick around for the post show because we got plenty more to talk about. Thanks again for tuning into Human Factors Cast. Until next time,
it depends.
And that's a show.
Music. Cool.
Oh.
That was a tough one, pal. That was hard to talk about, wasn't it?
A little bit.
Some
can I just get this out? Oh my god, like super trigger warning for the Philadelphia one, man. Like she just completed treatment, dude. Hang on. Like the details hurt me. They like
It was, I mean, that one on a number of levels. I mean, obviously for the whole thing of what it was anyway, was just bad. And then it came out that obviously it was a Mexican family and all that sort of stuff. And you just sitting there just going, it was almost cringing about where, what sort of commentary was going to be made about that stuff. And you're just sitting there going, just show a bit of humanity. But yeah, with all of them, I think that it was just, it's been a tough month for aviation. There was some there that we didn't mention, Neil, in the comments.
Oh yeah, and thank you for commenting, Neil. I did want to address that. We were focusing on commercial aviation rather than military aviation, just to avoid any issues with putting knowledge out there that maybe we're privy to that maybe we shouldn't. So that's all I have to say about that.
It does make you, I think I think I sort of said this in the pre-show as well, is it does make you appreciate the amount of information now that is out there so quickly. Because it's not that long ago that you would have heard about it in the news through mainstream news. They wouldn't have had that much information to go on. It had been highly speculative. and you wouldn't have been able to have the level of discourse that we've had about it so far, because we wouldn't have much in the way of raw and source data. But because the people do record stuff, because things like air traffic control discussion is available because it's public, and all that sort of stuff, and we've now got the ability to share that, it means we can talk about it in the way that we have, which I just find completely stunning, really. So I think a lot of people could say it can be a bad thing, which I think it can be. Again, President Trump's been quite a good example of that, for people to jump to conclusions and stuff. But from our perspective, from an HR perspective, I think it's really good that we can actually talk about this stuff.
Yeah, it's necessary. I think the word we're looking for is necessary, because I think I mentioned in the pre-show there's some human factors communication work going on, and let's just say our ability to rapidly respond as a community to some of these things, high-profile incidents where human factors is a critical component of them, is incredibly important, and something that maybe has not been addressed quite as much as it needs to be. So I'll just leave it there for now, and it's being looked at. I do want to shift gears though, because I pulled up this image, Barry, and I hope it's okay if I share it. Can I share this?
As long as I've got clothes on, then yeah.
Yeah, it's not the one. It's not the ghost picture. Hang on,
It's not that one. Okay.
All right, here I'm gonna share this one because I saw it here.
Yeah,
that's it, right?
They're my balls.
Those are your balls.
They are. Now, apparently, so whenever you go and do something new, you've got nothing to measure it against, right? So I went and sat, and a lovely lady called Sally, she at a local pottery called Pembury Pottery, I went in and said, right, I've never done pottery before, want to give it a go. Can I do something? And she was like, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know. I want to throw something on a wheel and make it happen. But then I went into a bit more about why I wanted to do it. So I wanted to do something that I could take my mind off things and all this sort of stuff. And she was like, yeah, okay. So we did, so she showed me some basic techniques and stuff. And so the two, I guess the 5 smaller balls, the 2 brown ones, the 2 blue ones, and the light blue one in the middle, were all me just practicing, having goes at doing this stuff. And then Sally was like, right, well, you've done that. That's great. I think you can do something a bit bigger and a bit better. And so the 5 that I pointed out were, I think, basically a pound of clay, or a suitable amount of clay. The one right at the back, the sort of dark, murky one, what they call Harry Potter colours because it sort of sparkles a bit, it's quite cool, is double the amount of clay. And so I was like, whoa, I feel like I'm going to like sort of deep end swimming here. But yeah, so we went and played with that. And when I then went to pick them up, I was speaking to Sally's husband, who did a lot of the firing in the kiln, and he was like, oh, you said you've never done this before. You're clearly a thrower. You are very good. Now, I'm sure that they say that to all the people in order to make more sales. But I absolutely love doing it. So it is my new. You can tell it becomes a thing when all of your reels, your TikToks, and all that sort of stuff.
The algorithm got you. The algorithm got you.
With the exception of Instagram, I don't really use Instagram very much. I do it for scrolling anyway. I post stuff on it, but I don't really use it for scrolling reels, and that has a very, very different flavor to it because I don't put anything. It's got nothing to go on.
Yeah.
And so I'm just a typical, I guess, middle-aged man with that. And yeah, the stuff that's on there is very, let's just say, middle-aged manish.
Middle-aged man. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
So, but no, loved it. Absolutely loved doing it, and I can't wait to do the next bit.
Awesome. Well, Neil says they look amazing. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
And I agree. I think job well done, dude. Job well done.
So no, I'm now looking about what am I going to make next? What am I going to do? And
Well,
I've
what
kind
are
of
you going to make next?
so I would like to make wine goblets. So either pint glasses made out of clay or wine goblets, that type of thing. But I wonder if I can get to my this from here, and I can show you some. I might not be able to log in because it's on my phone, but if I can log in from there, then that'll be awesome. May not work. Oh, it's logged into something. Oh, it does. Where's my pottery ideas? Right, I'm going to share my screen. Share that. So if you want to bring in,
Oh yeah, I guess I could bring that in. Here you go.
so here's all sorts of things like sort of wine goblet type things. I found today doing Moroccan cooking. What do you call them things again? Anyway, the Moroccan cooking dishes, but no, very much of the sort of wine goblet type ideas. I really want to have a go then wine cups and potentially beer things. So they're the things I'm going to try and have a go at and see what we can do. But yeah, I'm just looking for general ideas because I love the idea about not only the actual doing of it itself, but then all the glazes and how they all react and the different types of firing you can do and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's all very exciting about what we can play with. So I'm going to stop sharing that now. And we're back.
And we're back. And we're back. So I would love to talk about this. Hold on. I'd love to talk about this thing. Would you love to talk about this thing that is called Blue Sky?
Yeah, well, so Blue Sky I'm finding sort of interesting. I was chatting to a friend about it today, in fact. It's been a long day already. I'm still not as hooked into it as I was Twitter. When Twitter I'm still not. I don't think it's quite there yet. It's getting better, but I still don't have that almost that muscle memory urge to use it as a source of news. I've managed to. I don't use Twitter anywhere near as much, except where I might get the odd alert. But I don't use my own account. I don't post on it anymore. And in fact, the IEA was suggesting that they have a Twitter account or they should get an X account, and I was like, no, you don't. I'm in charge of your social media. It's not happening.
No, you don't. Bye.
But yeah, so it is sort of growing a bit there. What about you? You must have it hooked up to everything now, surely.
I know. I had a really flirtatious weekend with it.
Right.
Like here's so I'd like to talk through two things. One, I appreciate what it is in terms of, so like if you go and find me on Blue Sky, you'll notice that I am at nickrome.com, not nickrome at bluesky.social. And if you find the Human Factors Cast, you'll find that it's humanfactorscast.media, not humanfactorscast.bluesky.social. So I really appreciated what it does from a domain perspective, because what it does is it ties all your stuff to your handle, right? And so you can create the Blue Sky one, but you can also make your own custom domain. And so if I were to take that and migrate it to another platform that uses that, whether or not I like what Blue Sky has done, somebody else on another social media platform that does it better can check it out, right? Same thing for media, for videos. So you could have like a TikTok equivalent of using that, right? So if you put out short form videos and somebody makes a TikTok competitor, you can scroll through videos there. So I really appreciate what they're doing from that perspective. I think this might be a uniquely American thing, Due
You've
to
got some unique American things going on at the moment. I will brag about it.
Due to the polarization, like, well, hang on. Let me talk about one other thing that I did. I have set up a human factors feed that goes through and looks through various hashtags and keywords and accounts. And so if you go to Blue Sky and you look for the human factors feed from humanfactorscast.media, it actually has a pretty decent selection of things going on in our field, and it refreshes at a pretty good rate. So it's like, if you go to it, you'll find relevant stuff to our field, which is great. And that's something I'm really proud of, and y'all should go check it out. So now let me get into the uniquely American thing. I find that in this political climate, there are well, obviously you have the platform formerly known as Twitter that there was a mass exodus from, and so that tends to lean one direction, and I think Blue Sky tends to lean the other, and that's fine. I'm cool with that. But the thing that is happening is that it's almost like an echo chamber for doomerism. And I don't like that. I don't like the constant doom and gloom that is being. I just find it's unhealthy for my mental health, and I think that's probably like a lot of things with this administration. Again, uniquely American things. And so who knows? I might check it out here every now and then. But I find that the folks who are posting on there are the opposite spectrum from those on X. And so you'll have a lot of really strong opinions about sort of what a king can and can't do, those types of things. And so I find it, I like to take a pragmatic approach. We have laws, we have a constitution, sure, things are being challenged all the time. But we have appropriate guardrails. Like it's going.
You had appropriate guardrails.
Things are bad. People are going to get hurt. There will be free and fair elections in 2026 and 2028, and those are not mutually exclusive. These thoughts can coexist.
I think what's really interesting is historically when, in fact, when you go back to Trump 1, it was very much of it's going to be terrible, it's going to be bad, but 4 years, it's fine. We'll get over it. Things correct themselves and all this sort of stuff. I don't think anybody thought that things would go this fast, this hard, this quickly. Or maybe you did. I don't. Certainly from this side of the pond, there is very much a looking over, going, well, what happened to you guys? Because it is madness. It's the
point. It's the point is to wear us out quickly, so that way we give up, and it's not going to. There's a lot of resistance, and I think there's every single thing that has come out. There's like a counter to it, either a court, that someone sues, and it's fine, because these guardrails that are in place are it's not something that the executive branch can do. And so it's like, I think, like I said, people are going to get hurt. This is bad. But the doomerism of like, oh, we're cooked, we're done, this is it forever, I can't handle that level of doomerism, because I'm, again, pragmatic and like to look at yes, there's a lot of tear down right now, and yes, there's a lot of uncertainty, and anyone who is dealing with any of this, like, I feel for you. I have I know people who are directly affected by these things. Like I said, It's bad. It's bad. I
Yeah.
acknowledge that it's bad. But to say that it's over is a
Oh
different
yeah,
thing.
I think in the grand scheme of things, I think this 4 years is going to feel a lot longer than
A lot longer.
the other 4 years.
We're over 2% done with it.
Well, that's true. The fact that we can make them, or we're quite keen to make them sort of calculations, is interesting. I mean, I think that on the world stage as well, I think it's just a very different place. It's a very different feeling. I think the Greenland, the Canadian issue, what's going on, what's been said about Ukraine at the moment it's the Ukraine could send real shockwaves, and that could be a bit of a dividing line, because so far I think the UK has kept a very, they're going mad, but we'll just nod and smile, and we'll just, yeah, okay, we're not going to get smacked by the tariffs and this, that, and the other. We'll let it go. But then with the Ukraine comments, there was nowhere else for us to go. With you either called out, no, it's a democratic country. They've had free and fair elections. In time of war, you don't generally have elections. It's not a done thing. So it's not anti-democratic whatsoever. And Ukraine didn't cause the war. There was we couldn't not say that, and so it'll be interesting to see the response to that, because it could end up being somewhat of a dividing line.
Yeah, all right. Well, there's that. Anyway, Blue Sky, nice idea.
I think
Stop
it is.
saying we're cooked. Stop saying we're cooked. We're not cooked. Not yet.
Cooked. It's going to be like I say, it's going to be when history gets written, it's going to be interesting to see. But no, but what does Blue Sky need to do? Because, like I say, I just don't feel it's not tipped over the edge yet. It is not the new X. It is a contender to be the new X, or the new Twitter. But it still doesn't seem to have completely made it yet. Do you think it's just a matter of time, or do you think there's something more it needs to do? What do you think?
Oh, that's interesting. I think
because it's getting bodies on there now. It's got quite a significant take up.
It does.
It's not just about the number of contributors.
Let me be clear. I tend to think about Blue Sky and the platform, the app protocol that it is built on, as different things. Blue Sky is the window by which you are looking into your app protocol social media. The app protocol. So this was my flirt with on the weekend, where I got really into understanding sort of how this works. So the way it works, the app protocol, and this is kind of addressing Neil's comment here. The app protocol is actually open source. It's you can pick it up and take it wherever you want, right? So this is where I'm saying, like, you and I, Barry, we could develop something that runs on app protocol and develop a social media hub for human factors professionals. And everything on it is centered around human factors, ergonomics, design, whatever. And it takes a subset of the whatever's being said on app protocol. You can do different things. Like, let's say we could do something different. We could remake MySpace with the app protocol.
Yes.
And we could say, I'm going to put Barry in my top 8, and then I'm going to, is this a too deep a cut? I don't know.
I was going to say we've gone places now.
All right, Barry, you're on my top 8, and here's my CSS for my page. We could do that. And that profile would be the same profile that we are using on Blue Sky. Again, it's the window that you're looking into this thing. So whether or not you set up the permissions to, are you going to make a Facebook equivalent on the app protocol where you say something to friends and family, and you can change the visibility, whether or not that shows up on something like Blue Sky? Because right now, Blue Sky is like Twitter, where you have short form thoughts. Sometimes they're longer form. You can attach images, you can attach videos. It's micro blogging. Anyone can follow you. You can follow anyone, but then you can have different things associated with that. So you can pick up this thing and move it somewhere else. Blue Sky is the window. You'll just look through it from a different window. And I think what's happening right now is, one, there's not enough competitors on operating off the app protocol. And thank you, Neil. Thank you. We're both in your top 8. Awesome. So I think the interesting thing here is separating the platform Blue Sky from the app protocol. And I think Blue Sky itself, I don't know what it needs to do, but I think the app protocol has a lot of promise for the future. And it's going to take the right app to come along to really show how it's transformational. And Blue Sky is a part of that conversation where, all these things that I've done on Blue Sky are going to transfer over here. That's cool. And we haven't had that moment yet. And because we haven't had that moment, once we have that moment, then I feel like then you'll see the real influx of like, oh, there's value in this. And it's going to be cool. Right. And I'll use my same handle everywhere. Oh, I'm at nickrome.com.
Nice. Did you flex on change the subject? Because I think I know the answer already. Did you watch the Super Bowl?
Oh, I watched the halftime show. That was great.
Okay. Yeah. It was but the actual game itself was brilliant. I was completely stoked to watch it. I thought it'd be a walkover, but it wasn't. It was really good.
I'm glad you enjoyed.
Yes. Halftime show was interesting. When I started watching it, I watched it literally as it kicked off, so I missed all the stuff beforehand about who was getting booed and who wasn't getting booed and all that sort of stuff, which was interesting. But no, great game, good game,
and great halftime show.
Yes.
Oh.
I've got to be honest, not my type of music. I'm more a trancey dancey type person, but I appreciate the effort that went into it.
Hey, that's something.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least you're not one of the types that's the worst halftime show in history.
Given that I haven't watched that many halftime shows, then
in history, you're comparing it to
yeah. It'll be interesting to see. So I was listening to a podcast the other day that suggests that because who owns the rights to doing the Super Bowls, the halftime shows at the moment?
I don't know.
I think it's something like Jay-Z or somebody like that. Actually owns the rights to doing. He's contracted by the NFL to do the halftime shows, and there's a lot of discussion at the moment that that we might not be seeing the same person do that. Oh, and I didn't know that the NFL was going to either next year. That's exciting. This year. It'll be this year. Oh, back in this year, early next year. Next season, yes, good shout. Because I made it my thing that I want to go and see the NFL in London. I keep on saying I want to do it and never do it. This is the year that I'm going to go and do that. So the Jags come and play in London. It's classed as one of their home grounds. So I'm going to go and see the Jags play.
Nice. You know what's funny is I was about to bust into an entirely different topic and subject that I could go on and on and on for, and then I looked at the time.
Oh, we've got like 60 seconds.
6 seconds. So here, remind me next time. We got to talk about. I mentioned the ring.
Yep.
The Aura ring has some interesting human factors, things going on with the way that they display information. I'd like to talk about it.
Okay.
So that's a preview for next time. When next time is. See you in a month. I don't know.
At some point we'll definitely do it. Do it in 2025.
No, this was fun, Barry. We should do it again next month.
Yes.
Jokes aside, hopefully we can get back in here a little bit sooner, more regular, and hopefully that will be that issue will be a non-issue going forward. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you all for joining us tonight. And Neil, thank you so much for all the comments. Truly appreciate the engagement. I think for that, you'll be in my top 8 too. And then I think for everyone else, if you want to keep the discussion going, please engage with us on Discord. Happy to keep that discussion going. It's really a great place to connect with other Human Factors folks. Hopefully, that you all find some value in community. I think there's several communities for Human Factors folks, and it would just be nice to have a good place to call home. So, okay, with that, I think we're any last words there, Barry?
No, I'm going to go to bed and go to sleep because I'm really tired.
Yeah, you go to bed. It's late for you.
It is indeed.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Guava Health. I'll let you know, Neil. All right. For now, bye everybody. Bye. We will see you next time. Are you tired of boring lectures and textbooks on human factors and UX? Well, grab your headphones and get ready for a wild ride with the Human Factors Minute podcast. Each minute is like a mini crash course packed with valuable insights and information on various organizations, conferences, usability methods, theories, models, certifications, tools, and much more. We'll take you on a journey through the fascinating world of human factors, from the ancient history to the latest trends and developments. Listen in as we explore the field and discover new ways to enhance the user experience. From the Think Aloud protocol to the critical incident technique, focus groups, iterative design, we'll make sure that you're the smartest person in the room. Tune in on the 10th, the 20th, and the last day of every month for a new and interesting tidbit related to human factors. Don't miss out on the Human Factors Minute podcast, your ultimate source for all things human factors.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast Network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our monthly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and access to the full library of Human Factors Minute, a weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you.